Good morning, everyone. Today, we are going to study about the topics scientific method, scientific attitude, and scientific aptitude. Now, let's move on to the topic. Scientific method. What is meant by scientific method? It is a method or the procedure which the scientists use in the pursuit of science may be termed as scientific method. Scientific method consists of systematic observation, classification, and interpretation of data. The scientific method consists of various steps. Here are the following. The first one is sensing the problem. Second one is defining the problem, and the third one is analyzing the problem. Fourth one, collecting the data. Fifth one, interpreting the data. Sixth one, formulation of hypothesis. Seventh one, selecting and testing the most likely hypothesis. Eighth one, drawing conclusions and making generalization. And the last one is application of generalization to new situations. So these are steps of scientific method. Now let's discuss about the first step, that is sensing the problem. In this step, the teacher should provide such situations in which the students feel the need of asking some questions. The teacher may also put such questions which require reflective thinking and reasoning on the part of his students, and this may become a problem for the students to solve. The teacher should also take into consideration the interest of the students, the availability of the material on the problem, and its utility to the students in promoting reflective thinking and training in the method. This setting up of a problem may be a cooperative approach of the teacher and the students. The next step is defining the problem. Here the students define their problem in a concise, definite, and clear language. There should be some key words in the statement of the problem, which may help in better understanding the problem. The teacher should help the student in stating the problem. Do you understand? Okay, now move to the next step, that is analysis of the problem. Here the students now find out the key words and phrases in the problem, which provides clue to the further study of the problem. The key words help in finding out the required information. It is important that the students should know the meaning of all keywords and understand the whole problem. The next step is collecting the data. Here the teacher suggests references for the problem. The students consult the references and collect evidence bearing upon their problem. It is a good opportunity for the teacher to guide the students in developing a variety of skills and techniques. And the teacher calls upon the students to use devices such as models, pictures, field trips, experiments, textbooks, etc., which require special techniques and skill. The students should be given practice in locating information and to devise means to obtain it. And the next one is interpreting the data. After collecting data, these has to be critically examined with respect to relevance, appropriateness, clarity, etc. The students organize the collected data by similarity and difference and plan experiments to answer questions and test ideas. The superfluous data is discarded and incomplete once refined or completed. Is it clear? Can you follow me? Okay, the next one is formulation of tentative solution or hypotheses. After the data is interpreted and organized, the students may be asked to write down the inferences based on the given evidences and to propose ways of testing out these inferences. The next is selecting and testing of most likely hypotheses. The students can select the most tenable hypothesis by rejecting the others through discussions and experimentations. The selected hypothesis is again tested experimentally to find out its truth. The next one is drawing conclusions, making generalization. In this step, the tested hypothesis, if accepted, leads to the conclusion to be formed. Generalization can be made if similar sets of experiments also show the same results. And the last one is application of generalization to new situations. Here the student should apply the generalization to their daily life. This will bridge the gap between the classroom situation and real-life situation. So, this is all about scientific method. Okay, now let's move on to the next topic, that is scientific attitude. Attitude is a predisposition of mind towards an object or person or phenomena. It may be either positive or negative. In other words, a person may exhibit favorable or unfavorable attitude. And the scientific attitude is the open mindedness, a desire for accurate knowledge, and the expectation that the solution of the problem will come through the use of verified knowledge. That is, scientific attitude means being open minded, seeking accurate knowledge, and expecting solutions based on verified information. A person with scientific attitude will have the following characteristics: open mindedness, free from superstitious beliefs, a quest for knowledge, a positive thinker, up to date with recent knowledge, develops independent thinking, shows faith in cause and effect relationship, keen observer, accuracy and truthfulness in reporting observations, respect for others' opinions, critical mindedness, judgment based on scientific facts, honest reporting. Did you understand? Okay. Now I will ask you a question, that is, as a science teacher, how can you develop scientific attitude in your students? Who? Scientific attitude can be developed in the following ways. Who? The first point, wide reading. Students should be encouraged to read extra books and periodicals in science. Who? Certain articles on scientific topic can be gathered and kept by students. And the next one is practical works. Proper use of laboratory can offer many opportunities for developing scientific attitudes. Practical works should be done with intellectual honesty. The teacher should suggest projects for experimentation and problem solving. Next is co-curricular activities. Club activities like science club, eco club, forest club, etc., science-related hobbies, science fairs, excursions, field trips, museum techniques, maintaining garden, life corners like aquarium, herbarium, help to inculcate scientific attitudes. The next one is classroom atmosphere. Child-centered methods, freedom of expression, internal settings, respecting students' views, encouraging intelligent questions, etc., can create an atmosphere conducive to the development of scientific attitudes. And the next one is study on superstitions. Students may be encouraged to investigate some common superstitions in the course of learning particular lessons and come to their own conclusions by actual survey and study. Last one is personal influence of the teacher. The teacher should encourage the spirit of creative criticism, inquiry, and investigation among students. The personal example of the teacher, his beliefs, attitudes, etc., will also help in the development of scientific attitudes. Along with these, there is also many ways to develop the scientific attitude in students. Okay, now let's move on to our last topic, that is scientific aptitude. Aptitude refers to an individual's inborn potentialities or capacities towards some field of action. Aptitude is not a specific skill, rather it is the capacity to acquire that specific skill. If an individual has no aptitude for a particular type of work, he or she not be skilled or proficient in that task in spite of training given to him or her. And scientific aptitude is the inherent ability in the field of science which helps in acquiring required skills and proficiency in the field of science. That is, it is the natural ability or inclination to understand and engage with scientific concepts, theories, and methods. It involves skills such as critical thinking, problem solving, observation, and experimentation, as well as an interest in exploring the natural world and uncovering new knowledge through scientific inquiry. Now, let's delve into the difference between scientific attitude and scientific aptitude. Scientific attitude. It is a condition of mind generating emotional states. Can be created by studying science. It is a prerequisite for science study. Scientific attitude does not necessarily imply interest in scientific activities. Scientific aptitude. It is an inherent ability. It cannot be created. It exists in the individual which may be perfected through science study. Even if there is no aptitude, you can teach science to an average level. Scientific aptitude implies interest in science activities. So, this is all about today's class. Hope you all understood the topic. Thank you.